have to, you know, with witnesses present, and the time we know our case, you know, we should still be able to see that somebody has something else in nature. That's my opinion. You always do that.
Bobby, Thorpe, anything?
Yeah, Pat, I'm gonna need somebody to do my calendar for me.
Well, what do you got on?
Just give me a sec. Johnson, and there's Andrews here, Littleton, and I think there's something else, but I'm not really sure.
Well, where is the calendar?
Well, I haven't pulled it, but I have the cases written down.
All right, well, when you figure it out, why don't you get back to me? Morning. Kent. Winnick, anything?
Yeah, we've got Smith, Davis, and Jones, and Connie's on trial.
Name of the defendant?
Campbell Kukowski.
Who?
Campbell Kukowski.
Spell it.
That's K-A-M-E-Z K-O-W-W-S-K-I-E-Z.
Again.
K-A-M-E-Z-O-W-W-S-K-E-Y.
I wish you better make that a 2-day trial.
Know it, he's about to enter a strange new world. Too incredible to be real, too real to be a dream. It's called The Twilight Zone.
John Ritter, no, he's not in. He'll be back on Monday.
Honey, I don't have...
Edith, do you have that memo on the automobile stop that I gave you?
Yeah, but I had to make a few changes.
What changes?
Well, look, see, you misconstrued the entire Ross and Belton line of cases. In Ross, the Supreme Court held that the scope of the search is defined by the object of the search and the places in which there is probable cause to believe that it may be found. You know what I mean? See, now the Court of Appeals has adapted a narrower automobile exception to the New York State Constitution, and that's Belton too. Your memo needed a little more punch, so I included a discussion of People versus Orlando and People versus Langen.
Well, Edith, is it typed?
Oh, sure, here it is.
Thank you.
Pat, you have a moment for grand jury approval?
Okay. What is it?
It's a residential burglary, and it's on the border of Nassau and Suffolk. It's kind of in that 500-yard thing. I'm not...
Well, where is it?
Nassau, I think.
Tell me about it.
Complaining witness said she came home.
Defendant's name?
Defendant's name. Oh, Kim Keast.
Kim Keast?
Yeah,
First name?
Kim.
Kim Keast. All right, tell me about it. Tell me again.
Well, the complaining witness said she came home, front door was broken, and everything was missing in the house. Cops found the guy 2 weeks later, and he had on a piece of jewelry. And the cops said he recognized the jewelry.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. How long later?
2 weeks, 3 weeks?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Go ahead.
And he had a piece of jewelry around his neck. The kid was just walking down the street, and the cop had seen photos at the precinct of stolen jewelry from this house, and it looked familiar.
This is the defendant, I assume?
Yeah, the defendant.
Oh, okay. Wait. All right, so fast. Who saw him with the jewelry?
Who saw him with the jewelry? The cop saw him with the jewelry.
Okay. Under what circumstances?
The cop was just on patrol in the park, and he saw this guy.
How did the cop know these jewels were from that burglary?
There was a photo going around the precinct because the complaining witness is an important person in the neighborhood. That's my understanding. She made a big sting.
Okay. All right. What about this guy's record?
No, just give me a second. He's got a rap sheet, a sword. He's got, I'd say, like 10 felonies, and he got a lot of ACOGs. Most of them in New York City. One burglary out here, but it's still in district court. It was reduced somehow. He's not a PFO. That's which one. He's not a PFO.
That felony arrest must have been a goddamn white sale, that thing. When did you talk to the complainant?
I haven't yet. I just found out through the precinct, you know, who she is, and I haven't spoken to her yet. I haven't called.
When was this person arrested?
He was arrested 6 weeks after the incident. It happened on March 28th of '85, and he got picked up like May 15th.
Where's his case been since then?
Since May 15th? It was over in Portnoy for a while. Defendant's request for adjournment. I don't know. There's a blue waiver in the file. I just got it last week, Friday.
Well, first thing you got to do is talk to the complainant. If I get 2 of the cops here and 3 other civilians, you be talking to them?
No, not
Well, when
yet.
you come back when you've done that. I'm not approving it for grand jury. All right. Yeah.
Pat, can I see you about a grand jury case for a minute?
Have you spoken to the witnesses yet?
Well, Pat, it's a circumstantial evidence case, and there are no witnesses.
2 o'clock.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kevin Gray, and this is a continuation of case number 6 on your calendar, the people of the state of New York versus Sandwich. Let the record reflect at this time that the defendant has resumed his seat on the stand and is accompanied by his attorney. Mr. Foreman, do we have a quorum?
Yes, we have a quorum.
Were all the members of the grand jury who are here today also present when this case began last week?
Let me see. Yep, everyone's here.
I will now read the waiver of immunity questions. Please state your full name, spelling your last name, and give your address for the record. Do you understand that this grand jury is investigating an incident that occurred on May 21st, 1985 at the 2nd Street Delicatessen in Mineola, New York? Do you understand that you are a possible target of the investigation and that the crimes for which you are being investigated include criminal impersonation? Do you also understand that you have the right to talk to a lawyer or a butcher before giving any evidence or before signing a waiver of immunity? Mr. Sandwich, please tell the jury your statement of the events that occurred on May 21st, 1985 at the 2nd Street Delicatessen in Mineola. At any time you wish, you may speak to your attorney. Mr. Sandwich, seeing that you have no statement to make, let me ask you a few questions. Isn't it true you have no artificial coloring? Mr. Sandwich, isn't it true that you contain no unnatural fillers? Isn't it true, Mr. Sandwich, that you're ham, not spam? I have no further questions for this witness. Are there any questions from the grand jury? Yes, sir, in the front row.
I want to ask him a question. I want to know if he's ever been to the Turkey Club.
I'll direct the grand jury not to consider that foul question. Yes, ma'am, in the red dress.
Yes, I have a question. Have you or any member of your family ever associated with mayonnaise or mustard?
Ma'am, that question's a little broad. Let me rephrase that. Mr. Sandwich, are you presently under the influence of mayonnaise or mustard? I see you're not. You may cover yourself.
I'm not sure if this is a tasteful question or not, but I'd like to know if Mr. Sandwich has ever represented himself to be kosher.
Once again, I'll say that's irrelevant. Please restrict your deliberations only to the testimony and the evidence before you. Yes, you in the back with the sunglasses.
I'd like to know, were there any prints taken on this case?
I'll direct the witness not to answer that question. Sir, that's really not relevant to this case.
Mr. DA, I still have the same question. Why were there no prints taken on this case? Isn't it usual police procedure that prints are taken on a case, especially one of identity?
Sir, what is usual police procedure is not for you to consider. For you to consider is only the evidence that you have heard coming from the witness stand.
But I think it's very relevant, especially with a case of identity. Mightn't it show whether it's him or Span, depending on the prints themselves?
Once again, I'll say that's irrelevant. Please restrict your deliberations only to the testimony and the evidence before you. Are there any further questions from the grand jury? Yes, sir, in the front of the room.
I'm sorry, Mr. Defendant, is that white bread or rye bread you're on? And if it's rye bread, is it seeds or seedless?
Once again, I would ask the witness not to answer that question. Please stick to intelligent questions. Are there any further questions from the grand jury? Seeing that there are no further questions, Mr. Sandwich, you're excused with the thanks of the grand jury.
Please rise. Court is now in session. Judge Seymour Watson presiding.
Ma'am, is there any doubt in your mind whatsoever that this defendant is the man who beat you and then stole your pocketbook?
No doubt in my mind.
If it pleases the court, I have no further questions for this witness.
Mrs. Jones, is it what you're saying? Is it that my client is the person who hit you and then took your pocketbook? Is that what you're telling us?
That's exactly what I'm telling you.
Well, could it have been somebody who maybe looked like my client and not necessarily my client per se?
It was definitely your client.
Well, Mrs. Jones, isn't it a fact that you've been convicted of many crimes in the past which may affect adversely upon your credibility here as a witness?
Objection, Your Honor. That's outrageous.
Isn't it a fact that you were convicted of petty larceny in 1972?
Objection, Your Honor.
Isn't it a fact you were convicted of prostitution in 1963 when you were only 14 years old?
Your Honor, this is outrageous. Counsel has no good faith basis for asking any of these questions.
I got plenty of good faith basis.
And I object to that, Your Honor.
I'm just checking out whether this witness is credible because my client's life is depending on it.
If you cannot resist disrupting the court, I order the marshal to bind and gag.
Look, Your Honor, I will withdraw this line of questioning, but I would ask, it's okay, will you just, Your Honor, if it please the court, will you permit the witness to follow me to the rear of the courtroom? Ma'am, will you follow me, please?
Objection! He's leading the witness.
All the time. We have those. Maybe if I brought in some anatomically correct humans, you might be able to show me.
That would make it very easy for me.
Do you know what an anatomically correct human is, honey?
Sure, I see them all the time. I've got cable.
Hello, ADA Sochnik, Mental Hygiene Unit.
Well, who are you? Well, who are you? Isn't there something you should be doing?
Cameo of a man who has just lost his most valuable possession. He doesn't know about the loss yet. In fact, he doesn't even know about the possession. Because like most people, he has never really thought about the matter of his identity. But he's going to be thinking a great deal about it from now on. Because that is what he's lost. And his search for it is going to take him into the darkest corners of the Twilight Zone.